Hi guys, today's video is a request by a subscriber, and that is Harry Chapman. He asked if I could compare the Ivor Class 2 by Bachmann and the Riddles BR Standard 2MT by Hornby. And yeah, I am. I just want to put a warning out here that I am not an expert. I am a beginner, a noob, a novice, whatever you want to call me. That's what I am. So if I've missed anything, I do apologise. So as you look at it, on the left hand side, I believe is the Hornby one, which came out in 2023, and the right hand side is the Bachmann one. Doing my research, the models originally came out in 2007, but this one came out in 2008. One is a early crest and one is a late crest. The Hornby is the late crest and the Bachmann is the early crest. There's about a 15 years difference between the two models, and there is some subtle detail differences. Watching a few videos, I believe it's to do with the cab side, cab roof, and the interior of the cab, and possibly it could be the chimney as well. But to me, they all look the same, if I'm honest with you. So I'm going to take a comparison, do like a detail style comparison of both of them side by side to the best of my abilities. We'll have a speed test and we'll have a running session, and then I will see you at the end. So here goes. So as we start this comparison video of the Bachmann Ivor Class 2 LMS and the Hornby 2MT BR Standard, they both have sprung buffers, and both of the buffer beams are in red. I believe the Bachmann one is slightly weathered. They both have guard irons, knock stuff off the tracks. As you tell, the Bachmann one has the coupler already applied, the Hornby one does not. The only other differences I can see is that they both have a shed coat, they both have self-cleaning on that. It looks like they both have a separately applied cement box dart as well. We also have some lubricating pots on the Hornby one that are not on the Bachmann one. The numbers of the locomotives on the Bachmann one is a lot smaller than the Hornby one, and I believe the Hornby one is separately applied. Also, the chimney on the Hornby one is just slightly taller than the Bachmann one. It's not much, but it's there. As we now take a look at one of the sides of the locomotive, the big difference here for me is that the Hornby one has some piping under the cab and the Bachmann one doesn't, and the Hornby cab side is slightly different. It has a cut-off point near the driving wheels, and I believe the windows are a little bit different as well. We have the same amount of lining, I believe, on both of them. They both are in red, black and red lining. Both have the same wheel configuration, the same amount of metal and plastic on the valve gear and rods. They both have copper strips on the wheels to pick up. They both have the same lining as well on the cab sides, but the Hornby one definitely has more gold piping than the Bachmann one. That's the only major difference I can see. Like I said, I'm no expert in this. The whole lot looks exactly the same. Even the casing, I believe, for the reversing rod is different. I think on the Bachmann one it sticks out, on the other one it's all encased, but the Bachmann one is a bit longer, I believe. As we now move to the other side of the locomotive, again they both have an air gap in between. The Hornby one, yes, has more painted and separately applied piping. Again, it is the cab sides that make the difference on this. Again, the Hornby one at the last driving wheel has a cut-off point, and the Ivor one is a bit more rounder. But the Hornby one does have some doors applied to the cab. The Bachmann one never did. It was second-hand. But they both do have glazing. Both have the same style dome, and I think feeder as well at the top, the little silver bit. Again, they have the same amount of washout plugs. It looks like twins, basically, with the odd difference to them. As we now move on to the cab interior differences, there really isn't that much, saying there's 15 years difference in the model and tooling from two different manufacturers. There really isn't that much difference. They both don't have flickering fireboxes or glow. There's a lot more on the Hornby one painted. It does have glazing in the Hornby one. We also have glazing in the Bachmann one. The Bachmann one has a few bits painted, but it's not much. Like I said, for about 15 years difference, you really can't tell the difference. You would have thought they were both made in the same era, like the 2010s. Not one of them was made in 2022 or whatever it was. So yeah, the Bachmann one is a good model. As we now move on to the tenders themselves in general. For me, the tenders themselves in general are exactly the same in every way. I personally can't tell a difference. Okay, the coal load might be a little bit different on the Bachmann one. It's more of a round. The Hornby one does have a slight dent in. I believe the Hornby one is removable. They both have the same water filler cap, they both have the same ladder in the same place. We also have the same handles on the top of the tender itself. We also have glazing in the small windows that you look out over the protection that both tenders have got. We have supports for the same style of coal. There's also probably the same amount of rivets as well. It's probably the same water filler cap and the same dome to a degree. As we move to the sides, the rivets are the same. The colouring is the same. The only difference I can tell from the sides is that one's an early crest, which is the Bachmann one, and one is a late crest, which is the Hornby one. Failing that, you can't tell the difference. And it's the same for the back of the tenders. They both have a ladder, both have rivets, both have sprung buffers. But I believe the Bachmann one, the only difference is the two plaques you get are in two different places to the Hornby one. Even looking at the couplings, they look the same. And even, like I said before, even the protection on the front of the tender is exactly the same, near enough as the, well, both of them are exactly the same. I think the back one has a little bit difference at the edge of it. That's really about it. As we now do a look on top of the locomotive on both of these models, again, the only difference I can tell is the piping on the Hornby one. It is picked out. Near enough everything is in the same place as it is on the Ivert one. The Ivert's roof is a little different to the BR standard roof. I think it's a little shorter. The Hornby vent does move, the back one doesn't move. We both have metal safety valves, but Hornby's are in a copper, and I think Bachmann's is in a grey metal. They both have the whistle as well as plastic. The dome, one has I think a top feeder, I think it is, so it could be for sanding. That's the Bachmann one. The Hornby one doesn't have anything there, but it does have the piping going to it. And then, like I said, the Hornby chimney is a lot wider and a lot taller than the Bachmann one. It's not like a lot taller, it's a bit taller than the Bachmann one. But failing that, to a novice like me, it took me a few minutes to work out which one was which and what the differences were. I also think the cab shape in general, as long as the roof is different to each other, but failing that, there's not much. And quickly, I'll get on to the loco and tender connection, just for a bit of fun. And yeah, they are basically the same. So the Bachmann one has a metal strip going across the drawbar, and I believe it's screwed into place. Mine has never ever come out of place at all. And it also has the plug mechanism too, and that really goes for the Hornby one. But the Hornby one on the drawbar has two screws, one on the cab, one on the locomotive. Failing that, there's not much difference. So next up will be the Hornby BR2MT at 30 on my Gauge Master Combi, backwards and forwards. So here it goes. And now backwards. And now 50 going forwards. And same again, 50 going backwards. So yeah, it's definitely faster going at 50, both directions. 30 does seem a little bit slow. Next up will be the Bachmann Class 2, or 2MT as I like to call it, but it's a Class 2, doing the same stuff. So like I said, next up will be the Bachmann Class 2 at 30, backwards and forwards. So here goes. And now backwards. And now at 50, forwards and backwards. So yeah guys, that's the end of the running session on this comparison video. I just want to give my opinions on both of the models, the pros and cons basically. I do believe both manufacturers got their model correct in every way. Hornby's is a high price, like I said, it's almost £200 depending on where you get it from, and it came out in 2023. The Bachmann one, looking on the internet, is about 140, 100, somewhere around there, and that came out 2008. The actual model itself came out 2007, but this model here was 2008. There's a good 15 years difference between them, and personally, apart from the price and the gold piping on top, I personally can't tell the difference. I'm not an expert at these models, I'm not an expert anyway, but to me they look exactly the same. And the lack of detail that the Hornby one has compared to the Bachmann one, e.g. the flickering firebox, the tender push connection, you would say they came out in the same era of models, so like the 2000s. Yeah, the Bachmann one has less painted cab details, but when it's going around, are you going to see it? Probably not. Like the moving vent, are you going to see it? No. I did recreate the train that was on my review of the 2MT from Hornby with the Bachmann logo, just to see if we could manage it, and I had it at 35 and no issues. I also had the Hornby one with the spare Mark 1s at 35 again, and it does look a lot slower. The buzzing has got a lot louder since I did my review. In the detailed comparison bit, I'm not an expert. If I've missed anything in there, I do apologise. As I understand it, it's the cab size, it's the cab interior, and I believe it's the shape of the roof of the cab. Is near enough the differences between these, as far as I'm aware. I think there's a top feeder missing off one because it didn't have it, but failing that, I don't know. If I've missed anything or got anything wrong, please point it out. I really don't mind. And looking at them side by side here, yeah, they look exactly the same models. And you can't really tell from this view that the chimney on the Bachmann one is thinner and smaller than the BR standard one. But overall, if I had to pick between these two here right now, it would be the Bachmann one because it runs a hell of a lot better. It may be 15 years older than the Hornby one, but it runs a hell of a lot better, more easy to control, and it has the same loco and tender pickup as well, so there's no difference there. But this is only my opinion. I am a noob, a beginner, whatever, a novice, so I am not like an expert. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Please take care and goodbye.